it's Tanya from Azteco. Now, there is a time and place for strategic thought leadership. However, in this video series, we would like to focus on action leadership, the people who are driving Bitcoin consumer adoption by making it easier and simpler to use. And so I am delighted to welcome you today, Marcel, the founder of Bitcoin Dada. Marcel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Truly a pleasure.
Please go ahead and tell us who you are, what is your background? Tell us more about yourself, Marcel.
Okay, so my name is Marcel Lorraine, a Kenyan, born and raised here. A little bit about myself or my background. I went to school for banking and finance. About Let me just say, about a short while in the corporate space, I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. So I left and started running my own small businesses here. And that's how actually I ended up being in this side of the coin. Um, Anything else I would say is, I'm an introvert. That might sound very controversial, being that I deal with people. But yeah, so that's a little bit about myself.
Tell us, what is Bitcoin Data?
Okay, great question. So Bitcoin Data essentially is a community, a safe space where African women can actually come and learn and share their experiences as they go through their Bitcoin journey. We have online classes that happen every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Bitcoin Data is open to African women. So our major focus is actually to empower the African female through financial education. We've been running Bitcoin Data since May 2022, and this will be, when you hit May, that will be like our second year. Um, it's purely online, but we do have physical workshops for the ladies, and definitely we started with Kenya because that's where I'm based, but now we've expanded to other regions. So we are in Uganda, we are in Nigeria, we're in South Africa, we are in Ghana as well, we are in Namibia too, and we're expanding to different regions.
And what made you start
Okay.
Bitcoin Data?
Okay, so the major thing I would say is not seeing myself, in the space, or rather, I would put it this way: a lack of representation of the African females in the space. So when I started my journey, and I think, and I believe everybody can attest to this, when you're trying out something new, the first thing would be to look at, are there people who identify, who look like me, who are actually doing this particular thing, right? So at the beginning of my journey, I really wanted to, follow or have a mentor. And when I went online, I checked, or I wanted to find such figures, but I could not. So I realized there were very few African females who are actually participating. And the ones who are there don't really shout about it as well, right? So I thought to myself, it doesn't make sense if, the majority of the population in African is female, right? Or half of the population, let me just say that half of the population of Africa is actually female. So it didn't really make sense that there's this new revolutionary technology, but the representation from the African female is actually close to zero, close to nil. So that's how I came about with the idea of actually having a safe space or a community where just females can actually come and learn.
So, how is Bitcoin Data empowering women? And how are you creating new safe spaces for this community to grow?
Okay, so the first thing we do is we have tailored programs for the females. There's a lot of, and I would say this, there's a lot of materials where actually one can decide to learn on their own, but the materials there mostly are sort of tailored or meant for technical people. So, and for me, I really don't think for you to be a consumer of Bitcoin, for you to start using Bitcoin, you really need to be that technical savvy, right? So what we have done at Bitcoin Data is actually tailor our course outline to to be able for the ladies to actually relate to it depending on their experiences. So that's the first thing that we have done. The second thing that we have done, I have ensured that our space is a space where um, I'm really trying not to use the word privacy, but it's a space where that's the first thing that I look at. In terms of whatever is shared in the space doesn't go outside of Bitcoin Data, right? The other thing would be to encourage females, doing certain activities that encourage the females to always come back and actually learn more about Bitcoin and see how they can incorporate the technology in their daily lives.
When did you first hear about Bitcoin and what was that experience like for you?
I first heard about Bitcoin when I was organizing an event for a crypto company. That was back in 2018. There were a lot of organizations or companies that were coming into Africa to launch their products. So I remember back then there was a lot of hype. So anyone, just the same way right now we have a lot of hype around metaverse or AI. So at the time, a friend introduced me to this particular company, and I got their contract to, organize their event. So that was when I heard about decentralized finance. Of course, there was a lot of misinformation back then. And because I did not, have like a guiding light or a North Star into this space, I got into the shit casino, as what some may call it. But fast forward to 2022, I had decided I am not going to continue down this path. I think I'm just going to focus on the mother cryptocurrency, which was Bitcoin, because I felt somewhere in this whole noise, there's some truth into it. So I chose to focus on Bitcoin and actually study what Bitcoin is. And I started attending, meetings. I started watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, and just follow people on Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter, to see where this path takes me. So that's how I ended up being a true, well, not true, a Bitcoiner rather.
And how can women join Bitcoin Data?
Okay, so actually, that's very simple, especially if you're African. So the only thing that you need, the only qualification you need is being an African. We don't have educational, barriers. It doesn't matter whether you only went to high school or you have a master's somewhere or an MBA. As long as you have the commitment, and the willingness to unlearn and learn, that's the first thing that we look at. Commitment is key because we sacrifice our time, and also the volunteers that we have who come in to help with our courses also sacrifice their time. Um, we don't really have, oh, well, we do have like an age limit, which is between 18 years to, I would say, probably 48 years. So we do have an age limit to between 18 to 48 years old. So how do you join? Our website, which is btcdada.com, you can, of course, after having the two qualifications, you can apply on our website. Bitcoin Dada, our courses are actually cohort based. So we are currently on our sixth cohort. They'll be graduating this May. And the next one starts again on May 7th. So you can apply on our website. And definitely, if you have the two qualifications, you will receive an invitation to join the classes.
What is your favorite Bitcoin consumer adoption story?
Okay, good question. So I would pick one of my students' story, which is her name is Sarah. One of the reasons why she joined Bitcoin Dada is because she lost a business, right? She was trying, she does imports on her products, right? So one of the major clients that she was having at that particular time wanted to pay her in Bitcoin. She was Nigerian. Well, the client was Nigerian. So the client was like, I want to pay you, but I want to pay you in Bitcoin because I have limits on my account, and essentially also the crazy fluctuations with the naira. So unfortunately, at that time, my student Sarah did not know how or what Bitcoin was, or even just operate a wallet. So that's how she lost that particular business, because even if the client had wanted to be understanding, she could not because her account had a limit to it. So there was no way that particular transaction would have gone through. So when Sarah came to Bitcoin Dada, that was the first thing that she wanted to learn, how to purchase Bitcoin and how to actually go ahead and, do these kind of transactions with her clients. So for me, that's my favorite Bitcoin consumer story.
In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges for Bitcoin consumer adoption in 2024?
I would say I would say is the so we have limited merchant acceptance, and although this number is growing, definitely growing, but compared to the traditional payment options, we can see that it's still limiting. Right, that's the first thing I would say. If we can have more merchants, of course, this is effort that has to come from us, the already existing Bitcoiners, introduce more merchants into the space or into this technology. The second one, I would say there's a huge educational gap, knowledge gap. There are a lot of people who don't know what Bitcoin is. Some stem from misinformation. Others don't know what exactly Bitcoin is. So some have heard about Bitcoin, but they've had it in the wrong way, and some don't even know what Bitcoin is. So I think if we continue to do, if we have more initiatives that do education, then that would actually see more adoption in the space.
What advice would you give to companies who are hesitant to adopt Bitcoin?
Interesting. The first thing I normally tell people, including individuals, is start small. For me, there's no rush really. Start small, experiment, educate your staff members, educate yourselves as well, the executive team as well. That's the first thing that you want to do. Understand what you're getting into. I believe the major issue that we normally have in this space is people jumping in because of hype and excitement. And especially right now, because now we're seeing this, we have the bull run, right? So there are a lot of people jumping in, including companies, just because, they think they can make money out of this. So the major advice I would give is educate yourselves, educate the executive team, educate your staff members, and then start small as you go along.
Do you have any final comments that you would like to share with us today?
Because I work mostly with women, I think my final comment will be to other females out there, those who are in the space and those who are not yet into the space. I would say Bitcoin is for everyone. You don't have to feel intimidated. It is not a male thing. Bitcoin was created for all. So jump into this space. As I said earlier on, educate yourselves and find your way into, plug yourself into it. You don't want to be left behind. For the ones who are already doing something in this space, make noise about what you're doing. Like me, who was actually looking for someone to hold my hand, there are a lot of people out there who are looking for females who are participating in this space. So you might be someone's inspiration to get out of their comfort zone to do something. So it doesn't matter whether you're African, you're white, or whatever. If you're female and you're doing something in the space, try and make noise about whatever you're doing. There's someone somewhere, there's some female somewhere who might get inspiration and actually get off their seats and do something.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marcel.
Thank you for having me.